It's Friday, October 7th. This is a Fox News alert. Hurricane Matthew showing no sign of letting up after viciously ripping through the Caribbean, killing at least 300 people in Haiti.
Now, as the eye of the storm looms over Florida and the East Coast, President Obama declares states of emergency in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. The governors there now issuing a dire warning to residents.
This can kill you, and we cannot save you.
We can't take you by the hand and bring you to the upstate. We can't take you by the hand and say we need to get you out of there. I am begging you at this point.
You're not fine sandbag right now.
Just boarded up the best I could and did what I could to get by.
We have a house under construction. We have a house that's right here on the water, and we kind of said goodbye to it.
26 million people now lie in the storm's path, more than 300,000 already without power.
We have live Fox News team coverage for you up and down the East Coast.
We begin with senior meteorologist Janice Dean tracking a brand new path in the weather center. The storm is changing by the minute, Janice.
Yeah, we're into a state of nowcasting as the center of the storm is coming very close to the shoreline, the closest approach since we saw this hurricane make its way up towards Florida, around 40 miles off of Cape Canaveral, the center of this storm. And the one thing that's hard to forecast is the wobbles now of the east and west portions of the eye wall, and that's what we're going to have to watch over the next couple of hours is as this storm continues to rake its way up towards Georgia and the Carolinas. Will it make a landfall or will it stay offshore? But the one thing is that is for sure is this a major hurricane. It has been a major hurricane for over a week now, and we are watching it again with the strongest of the winds moving in right now. 80-mile-per-hour winds reports just east of the Melbourne area. And then taking a look at the forecast wind gusts, this forecast model shows most of the storm staying offshore for its duration. But you can see pushing across Georgia and then into the Carolinas, and this is Saturday. So we'll be tracking this well into the weekend. And then what happens after that? A curve. And will it curve back towards Florida? That's the question. And those are the answers we're going to want in the next couple of days. Does it get close to land again as perhaps a tropical storm? The one thing I want to point out is it's not the winds that is the most dangerous. It is the storm surge. It is the water, the freshwater flooding. And when you have a storm surge of 10 feet plus along the north coast, along Georgia and the South Carolina coast, that's where it gets really dangerous. So the worst of the storm is yet to come, and we'll be tracking it. Back to you.
The flooding, it can be devastating. All right, Janice, thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Well, Daytona Beach preparing for the worst as Hurricane Matthew marches closer by the minute.
Streets already underwater this morning, and the worst is still yet to come.
Leland Vittert is live for us in Daytona, where we could see catastrophic flooding, and you've been dealing with strong winds as well, Leland.
No, ladies, certainly very strong winds. I told you about an hour ago, you know the winds pick up when you turn your face to the wind and the rain pellets really start to hurt, and that's what is beginning to happen here now in Daytona Beach. The police chief echoing exactly what Janice Dean was saying, that it is the flooding and the storm surge they are most worried about. The Atlantic typically doesn't get much storm surge here because of the way the hurricanes form. Since this hurricane, if you imagine this road line to be where the Atlantic coast is, this hurricane is marching its way up the coast, and that means it's building more and more water to slam in as it moves forward. And with Daytona Beach being north, they're worried about truly a historic storm surge here, and that means water coming up all the way over these berms here. We're about 100, 150 yards from the water, and then flooding down into all these areas. The chief of police saying that they are expecting almost a flash flood-like event here as the combination of high tide and then the eye meets in Daytona Beach just about noon. So 7 or so hours from now as this storm will continue to intensify. A lot of rain, a lot of wind, trees down, power lines down, and you can see if you look up just about another 20, 30 feet in the air what the palm trees are doing, and that gives you a sense really of how much wind there are. The palm trees are completely horizontal now. Going forward, it's really unclear in terms of the wobbles, and that's exactly what the chief of police is talking about as they're watching minute by minute to see just how close the eye wall comes in here to Daytona Beach. The big concern, obviously, going forward is the flooding and then the power outages, which are sure to come the National Weather Service at one point saying that if this storm hits the way it's expected to here, Daytona Beach could be uninhabitable for weeks. Ladies, back to you.
Some of those reporting that the power could stay out upwards of 2 weeks.
Thank you, Leland. Every time we've gone to him in the last few hours, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. All right, well, just south of Daytona, where Leland was, in Palm Bay, the Category 3 hurricane is wreaking havoc as it churns just miles off the coast.
Now, Phil Keating has been out in the storm all night. I've been following you all night long. And, Phil, what is the latest?
Well, it is off the shore of Brevard County, which is where we are here in Palm Bay and Melbourne. We're basically at the city limit line separating the two municipalities. It's about 40 miles southeast of Cape Canaveral, but it's heading that way, Category 3 Matthew. There are more than 100,000 people in Brevard County now without power, 350,000 without power in the state of Florida. But you did hear the FPL spokesman saying they've already restored power to 100,000 plus people. There were power outages in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties yesterday. A lot of that situation is improved. In fact, from Jupiter south all the way to Key West, it's basically no more hurricane warning. And in Miami-Dade and Broward County, there's no tropical advisory whatsoever. It's in the clear at this point, and that's the upside of living through the 8 to 12 hours of intense wind and rain. Once it's over, you're looking at a day of most likely blue skies and allowing you to get outside and assess the damage. Obviously, no blue skies here, no sunshine here. Power went out a few hours ago, and no electricity in this area of Brevard County. And the governor actually addressed that issue of what all of northern Florida along the East Coast can certainly expect regarding electricity. Take a listen.
You're going to lose power if you're on the East Coast. There's no question you will lose power. You're going to lose power. We just don't know how long. We are going to lose power. Millions of Floridians will be without power.
Yeah. And for the past 3 or 4 days, the governor has really been touring the state, giving news conferences live on TV in many markets, basically saying this is very serious. You've got to evacuate the coast. If you live on the coast, do not take a chance. It's your life that we're talking about. And certainly it does appear that a lot of Floridians did do that, even though there was much worry about complacency since it's been 11 years since the last major hurricane hit the state.
Yeah. Governor Scott definitely working to be prepared. He also activated 3,500 National Guard troops there to help with the cleanup and recovery when that begins.
Phil Keating live for us. Thank you, Phil. And the federal government is already stepping in. A federal state of emergency now covers Georgia and both North and South Carolina, in addition to Florida. Highways packed with evacuees racing against the clock. Store shelves left completely empty as others prepare for the absolute worst. But officials are begging residents to take this storm seriously, hopeful that their warnings will save lives.
This is really a serious storm. We have in every way tried to prepare as much as possible to keep you safe as possible. But we can't take you by the hand and bring you to the upstate. We can't take you by the hand and say we need to get you out of there. I am begging you at this point.
Begging. Well, leaders in each state say the residents' move is crucial since it frees up funds to help with the looming devastation. FEMA also on standby, ready to move in to areas that are hit the hardest.
And as millions of Americans await Matthew's wrath, the deadly impact is being felt across the Caribbean. More than 300 people already confirmed dead in Haiti. And that number is expected to rise drastically as hundreds of others are still missing. And look at this, tens of thousands of homes leveled, gone in a country still reeling from the 2010 earthquake, that Category 7. Well, more than 300,000 people are without power, cell service, or clean water at this hour. Jamaica and the Bahamas left in utter shambles as well. The storm slamming the island nations on its path toward the U.S.
That aftermath is just heartbreaking. All right, well, Hurricane Matthew now front and center in the race for the White House.
Yep, just 2 days before the second debate, Donald Trump hits the trail showing support for people in the path of the storm, while Hillary Clinton stays behind closed doors.
Peter Ducey has that live from Washington, D.C. Peter, the debate goes on, it sounds like.
It does, Abby and Heather. Late last night, we got word that the second Trump-Clinton debate in St. Louis on Sunday will not be postponed or canceled. The Commission on Presidential Debates says the show will go on despite the expected massive cleanup in the Southeast this weekend. We did see Donald Trump on the trail last night in New Hampshire, and he spent a lot of time talking about Florida.
I want to send our thoughts, our hearts are with all of the people and prayers to the millions in the path of what's now known as Hurricane Matthew. We have a lot of friends in Florida, a lot of buildings, a lot of investments in Florida, a lot of great employees in Florida. To the folks in Haiti and all over, we're going to be helping you, we'll be with you, and we send our best wishes and prayers.
Meanwhile, the Clinton campaign is walking a fine line, calling for caution, but also calling for an extension of some deadlines they think could help their side.
Our first priority on Hurricane Matthew is that people are safe. We are hoping and expecting is that officials in Florida will adapt deadlines to account for the storm. The voter registration deadline in Florida is October 11th, and our hope would be that a little bit more time will be given.
We do not expect to see Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump on the trail today. They are both going to be behind closed doors getting ready for Sunday's event, which is a town hall format, and that's something that the Trump team told me yesterday they think gives Donald Trump an edge because their belief is that the person who does best at a town hall is the person who can give the most unfiltered answer. Back to you, New York.
We'll have to wait and see. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter. Another update for you. We've been talking about Cape Canaveral and the hurricane headed that way. An extreme wind warning right now. Wind gust up to 115 miles an hour. In the meantime, capitalizing on catastrophe, Hillary Clinton accused of playing politics with panic, while the Democratic nominee is now scrambling to pull ads from the Weather Channel.
Plus, Hurricane Matthew leaving hundreds of thousands of people in the dark as the hurricane bears down on the southern states. The monster storm spinning off the coast of Florida. We are live in the crosshairs. That is coming up.
Hurricane Matthew lashing Florida right now, leaving a path of destruction.
Millions could lose power for weeks as the monster storm makes its way up the East Coast, dumping rain and packing winds up to 120 miles per hour.
Yeah, those powerful gusts knocking around hurricane hunters, flying through the eye of the storm. Look at this. This is their plane shaking up and down uncontrollably.
Can you imagine? Senior meteorologist Janice Dean is in the Weather Center tracking the latest on this hurricane. We're going to have her back in just a few moments to give us the latest update there. As we've been saying, though, Heather, it's been changing by the minute.
So she is incredibly busy in there this morning. Meantime, Hillary Clinton's campaign scrambling to weather its own storm of criticism. The Democratic nominee accused of capitalizing on a catastrophe by buying ad time on the Weather Channel.
Jackie Ibanez is here with the backlash and the campaign's quick about face. Jackie, in politics, timing is everything.
It really is. Good morning, ladies. Hillary Clinton doing major damage control this morning as Hurricane Matthew slams into Florida's coastline. Her campaign yanking more than $63,000 worth of political ads from the Weather Channel, only after being accused of trying to capitalize on the fears of voters directly in the path of the deadly storm. RNC Chairman Reince Priebus slamming Clinton on Twitter, saying, quote, couldn't let this crisis go to waste. Shameful. Hillary Clinton's campaign even considered exploiting Hurricane Matthew for political gain. The move setting off a fury of debates over whether Clinton's campaign is insensitive to voters on America's election headquarters.
To seize advantage during a time like this, I think, is highly ill-advised. If there's a big sporting event, you're going to buy a lot more ESPN, sure. But this is a weather event.
People understand the importance of government in a time of emergency. And it is appropriate for us to ask what is the proper role of government in our lives. Republicans and Democrats differ on that, but that's a really timely issue during a storm like this.
Clinton's campaign says those political ads will run after the storm has passed. It's unclear what damage they've already done to Clinton in a narrowing race in the Sunshine State. Ladies, back to you.
All right, Jackie Ibanez. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. And we'll continue to follow the latest with Hurricane Matthew, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Be right back. Welcome back. Now 10 minutes to the top of the hour. We're going to check in now with Steve Doocy. Steve, we've been monitoring this hurricane very closely. I have a feeling you guys will be doing the same there. Also, the 20th anniversary of Fox News Channel.
There you've got, you summarized the next 3 hours right here on the
Fox
channel.
and Friends.
Yep, it was 20 years ago, coming up in 9 minutes, that we signed on from little Studio A over here in the corner of 48th and 6th Avenue at 1211 6th Avenue. 20 years ago. Some of the folks who were going to be dropping by, Bill O'Reilly was here that first day, Sean Hannity. We're going to have the judge, Geraldo, because it's Friday. Plus, of course, all eyes are on Florida. Just how bad will Matthew be? While the winds have diminished somewhat, it is still a super strong Category 3 hurricane. And as you know, the #1 killer of people in a hurricane is not the wind. It is the storm surge. So we've got people up and down the coast, plus Janice Dean, best in the business, going to tell us what's going on down along the southeastern Atlantic.
Hey, Steve, I heard you mention maybe a couple days ago about your home. You have a house down in Florida, and you were getting ready. The storm shutters, closing them.
Exactly. You know, we're up here. We've got somebody who helps us. One of the neighbors helps us. We've got impact glass, which is fantastic, which is good for about 150 miles per hour, so we thought we were safe. But unfortunately, because it's been so long since we actually used hurricane shutters on the one door, we couldn't find them. So they had to put plywood up yesterday before things were into town. Thankfully, I was monitoring all night long, and so far we did not lose electricity. So that is some good news. But
that is good news.
Thousands of Floridians absolutely dead.
Not so good news for everybody out there. All right, Steve, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Steve. Meantime, Daytona Beach preparing for the worst as Hurricane Matthew marches closer by the minute.
Streets already underwater this morning, and the worst is still yet to come.
Leland Vittert is live for us in Daytona, where we could see some catastrophic flooding. Leland, earlier you had some strong winds whipping you around. I can't see you yet, but what's the latest?
Well, Heather, we've actually had to put our camera crew inside the car because of the way the winds and the water have gotten out here. You talked about those strong winds. This is the aftermath, just the beginning of some of the damage here from Matthew. You can see this is the roof over what was a gas station, or is a gas station, without their roof, came toppling down here. Noteworthy that this gas station is one of the many that ran out of fuel here as everyone tried to get ready for Hurricane Matthew. We're about a block off the beach here, and already the big issue that we've talked about for so long of the storm surge has begun, and that's the water that's now coming down this street here and then rushing all the way over to the intercoastal. And you can get a sense here, the water's flowing over, just how much worse this is going to be. We're right at low tide now. We haven't even gotten anywhere close to the eye of this storm. So the water that's going to end up here is right now about 20 or 30 miles south of us, being pushed by Matthew up, and then the winds will bring it on shore. The winds have picked up substantially now. You'd estimate them certainly well over 40 miles an hour. Everything up there is horizontal, and the sheet metal is now blowing around, and that's what's going to be, of course, the real danger after this storm is all the debris, all the down power lines, those things that will be left. Back to you.
All right. A real trooper out there, Leland, wearing flip-flops. If you can't tell, the camera crew is inside the car filming. You can see the windshield wipers there.
I covered Hurricane George, and we actually did that same thing back in 1998, but I was going to tell Leland he better be careful, because one of the things that happens once all that water recedes, fire ants, because they go to dry land.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yep. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
If you need to evacuate and you haven't, evacuate. The storm will kill you.
A grave warning as Hurricane Matthew lashes Florida, leaving a path of destruction.
And this morning, hundreds of thousands of people are waking up without power, and they might not get it back for weeks.
Yeah, Matthew is the most powerful storm to tear through this area in more than a decade. Winds up to 120 miles per hour. I've been out here with you since midnight, and the worst is still yet to come. The National Weather Service warning of catastrophic storm surges that could bring immense human suffering.
Now, the storm could make landfall near Cape Canaveral within the next few hours before churning up the East Coast throughout Georgia and the Carolinas.
Could possibly hit the Kennedy Space Center there. The last time they had to deal with hurricane force winds was back in 2004. This obviously much, much stronger.
And as the police chief said in Daytona this morning, the worst is still yet to come.
About 2 million people asked to evacuate. Hopefully they did.
Take it seriously. All right, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, Fox and Friends starts right now with continued coverage.
This is a Fox News alert. It is 6 o'clock in New York City and in Florida as well. The time to prepare is over. Right now, Hurricane Matthew lashing Florida's Space Coast.
All right, the eye of the monster Category 3 storm getting closer to the U.S. by the second. In fact, it could hit landfall at any moment, probably throughout our show.
Unfortunately, this is going to kill people.
Hundreds of thousands of people are waking up this morning without power, and they might not get it back for weeks.
Hurricane Matthew packing winds up to 120 miles per hour, and the worst is still yet to come, they tell us.
All right, so we have live team coverage this morning from Phil Keating in Palm Bay, Florida, and Fox News chief meteorologist Janice Dean. But we start with Leland Vittert, who's live in Daytona Beach, as he's been throughout the night. Hey, Leland.
Brian, Ainsley, Steve, good morning. And through the night, it has gotten so much worse as Matthew approaches. If you turn your head towards the beach and the wind and the water, it's gotten painful now when the water droplets start to hit you. It's like a little bit of a sandblast almost, and it will get much worse as the wind speeds pick up here as the storm moves forward. Already the storm surge coming in, roads getting that layer of water on them, and more is to come. We're still at low tide. And as the police chief said earlier, the real danger that is coming now is the combination, the deadly combination of high tide and the storm surge together as the eye passes over. Take a listen.
Up. We've got some trees and power lines down now, so we're hanging in there and hoping if this thing turns a little bit further out to the east, it's all connected. We won't be able to pump water out of the mainland to get it out of there, so everything's going to come in and it's going to go back into the mainland, and we are in a bowl. Daytona Beach is basically in a bowl, so you will have areas that will fill up quickly.
And just since we talked to the chief about an hour ago, more damage reports, including probably the first significant damage we've seen. This was one of those things that sat over a gas station that's supposed to protect you from the wind and water while you're pumping your gas. It's toppled over, and now the sheet metal is flying through the streets here. A number of the street lights are out. Interestingly enough, this was one of the gas stations, almost all the gas stations, that was out of gas and out of fuel in the past few days. People being told now to hunker down. Inland, they're saying it could be 3-4 days until power is restored and you're able to live in your house. Out here on these outer islands, they're talking about a week plus until you are able to actually inhabit these islands after Matthew is finished with it, as the eye is coming here probably another 6 or 7 hours away. Back to you guys.
All right, Leland Vittert live in Daytona Beach, Florida, where it is so windy right now. We've got to have the camera guy inside the car. Leland, thank you.
Wind chill is going.
I know. Meanwhile, take a look at this incredible video just into the Fox News channel. Palm trees taking a beating by the winds and the rain.
Phil Keating has been riding out this storm. He's down in Palm Bay, Florida. Let's go to him now. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning to you all. We are just on the city limit line of Palm Bay and Melbourne, and right now just offshore you've got that eye wall, the most intense, fiercest winds right now just a mile or two or a little bit further offshore, and so the bands right now could be getting at some of the most heavy. It all depends on how far west this inner eye wall makes it, how far inland whether just skirts off the shore. That really will make all the difference in the world right now. Down in Port Salerno, south of us, that is Martin County near Stewart. They had some serious damage overnight and in the early morning hours. A lot of palm trees blowing violently, as well as traffic lights. And that's been the story coming up the state as it moves and marches north, heading towards Jacksonville. It's going to be another long day ahead for Floridians.
All right.
Thank you, Phil. Earlier we saw Phil, he was soaked in water. His hair was dripping wet, so maybe the storm has moved up north now.
And so Miami has to feel good, though, right? I mean, Miami, they feel as though they kind of missed it. So now it's central Florida, and then we're looking at the Melbourne area. And the fact that Disney, for only the 4th time in their history, closed down their park is amazing.
Yeah, Janice Dean's been tracking this storm. She's been with us the last few days. Janice, I was reading an article from Fox 35. The meteorologist down there said because the storm was a little bit to the east and hadn't made landfall yet, they felt so blessed because they weren't hit.
Right, and we're hoping that trend continues. But the nuances of these hurricanes, we can't exactly pinpoint whether or not it's going to wobble to the west or the east. So we still have, 24, 36 hours of a major hurricane to track. But yes, Ainsley, you're right. We're hoping that the center of the storm stays offshore because that's where the core of the strongest winds. However, I want to make mention that the worst part of hurricanes are the inland flooding and the storm surge. And that was the problem with Katrina, and it was the problem with Sandy. And Katrina was a Category 3 when it made landfall, and Sandy was a Cat 1. So, you don't want to look at the categories of these storms. And the flooding, the inland flooding and the storm surge are the killers with these systems. And that's what's happening right now. The water is piling to the north of the eye wall here. And there's the eye wall. This is the closest brush that we have had with the strongest winds right here. That is Cape Canaveral, just, 5 miles from the eye wall of the storm. We might not even have a landfall of this hurricane. So we're going to have to watch. This future radar shows, the center of the storm coming onshore in the next couple of hours. We're going to have to watch that. But look at Daytona Beach and Jacksonville, up towards Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston and Myrtle Beach and Wilmington. We're going to be dealing with days of this storm, unfortunately, and a Category 3 for the next 24 to 36 hours as it scrapes along the coast. But we are hopeful, there is a chance that the worst of it will hopefully remain offshore, which would be great news. But again, the storm surge and the flooding are the big issues with hurricanes.
Sure.
We're not done.
Janice, what's the biggest change since we were covering the incoming storm yesterday? What's the biggest surprise? What's the biggest change in the model?
Well, not much. We've been pretty good with the cone. I mean, as I said, there's so many uncertainties, and that's why we put this cone of uncertainty out, because there are those nuances with these tropical storms. Will it move a little more to the west? The wobbles are the difference between a major hurricane or a hurricane and just a tropical storm force wind. Yeah. So the track has remained the same, but the strength of the storm, this time yesterday we were saying a Category 4, this is a Category 3, not to make the fact that a Category 3 isn't a big event, but the difference between a Cat 3 and a Cat 4 is significant.
Sure. Instead of 130 miles an hour, it's 120. Now, Janice, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that it's the #1 killer during a hurricane is actually the storm surge. Explain how, because we see the swirl and we think there's wind and there's rain, that thing is actually pushing water, just a kind of a wall of water. So when you hear a storm surge of 5 feet, that means whatever high tide is, add 5 feet to it, and then it goes inland. And, right behind you, you show the low country of Georgia and South Carolina, and this is going to be a problem.
So that's the most vulnerable area, because you see the way the coast is shaped, right? And the worst of the storm surge is going to come up and over this storm, right ahead of it. And it pushes, it's the counterclockwise winds that determine the push of the ocean onshore. And that's why, so the storm, let me back up if I can on this, hopefully. Okay, so you can see right now the center of the storm, right? But the storm surge with the counterclockwise winds is moving towards the coastline.
Gotcha.
And we're expecting 6 to 11-foot storm surge, which for this coastline, as it makes its way towards North Florida and Georgia, which would be devastating if we get that kind of storm surge.
Sure, absolutely. Janice, thank you very much.
Okay.
The police in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, sent out a waiver form to the people who would not evacuate, telling them that if you do not evacuate, you're on your own, so please tell us in your next opinion, because if something bad happens with the storm surge or something else, we want to know how to get a hold of your relatives.
Pawleys Island's between Myrtle Beach and Charleston, closer to Myrtle Beach. If you flew in there, you'd probably fly in.
The president called 4 governors yesterday, Democrats and Republicans alike, said, hey, listen, I got your back, so let's see and hope he does. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about politics and as it relates to the storm. Yesterday we were telling you about how the Clinton camp was saying, well, let me see. What is everyone going to be watching in a battleground state? Possibly the Weather Channel. I'll make a $65,000 buy there. They got huge backlash. Among the backlash and some of the stronger statements, one from Eric Trump. He called the Clinton camp evil and sick for the buy, so they unbought the time.
Said that they were going to capitalize on this killer hurricane many Republicans accused them of. So they pulled those ads. They're going to delay them. They spent $63,000 for 5 days worth of ads.
Yeah, they called their salesman and said, we'd like to put the money on other channels. So Reince Priebus sent out this tweet. He said, pulling these ads after getting caught won't cut it. Hillary Clinton should apologize for using storm for votes. And then what happens? Robbie Mook, the guy who is the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton, actually turned the storm into a political thing, saying essentially, okay, we need more people to register, and unless the state of Florida extends registration, that's going to be a problem. Listen to this.
Our first priority on Hurricane Matthew is that people are safe. The one thing that we are hoping and expecting is that officials in Florida will adapt deadlines to account for the storm. The voter registration deadline in Florida is October 11th, and our hope would be that a little bit more time will be given.
Well, that's not going to happen. The Florida Governor, Rick Scott, said you've had enough time. If you haven't registered by now, tough luck.
You don't want to
We're not
register.
extending this.
It's going to go through the 11th. Prediction is, because the governor said no, he's a Republican, they're Democrats, they will sue the state of Florida.
So there's one thing also is clear. Remember we had the possible cancellation in 2008 of one of the debates because of the economic collapse that was taking place that John McCain recommended. Then it went back, and they ended up doing it. Well, the debate commission made it clear we are not delaying the debate. Steve Ducey does still have to go to St. Louis on Sunday.
Happily.
And he mentioned you.
I'm headed that way tomorrow so that I can do a story on Budweiser. And we're going to meet the guy who actually gets paid to drink beer.
And we have footage of you last night studying Budweiser. And we're going to be showing that a little bit later on this show.
Donald Trump says that he was out campaigning last night. Hillary Clinton is resting, he says. She's taken a few days off the campaign trail.
Just one other thing. In addition to I think yesterday they canceled 5,000 flights throughout Florida and throughout the entire system if you were flying in or out. Amtrak suspended the system, their service between New York and Miami. If you were on a cruise ship out in the Caribbean, there's a real good chance that you got rerouted. And earlier, one of our reporters, I believe it was Leland Vittert, was talking about how, as you look at Hurricane Matthew right now, currently a Category 3, it's spinning toward Cape Canaveral. Now, back in 10 years ago, whenever there was a hurricane that might approach Cape Canaveral, they'd have to roll the space shuttles in. But you know what? They've mothballed those. They're at museums now. But instead, SpaceX actually leases one of the launch pads out there, so they're worried about it. That is an $11 billion asset. Cape Canaveral.
Yeah, last time SpaceX tried to use a rocket, it exploded. We're still looking into that.
Right.
So. All right. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, we have 2 hours and 50 minutes of storm coverage and so much more coming your way.
The next debate between the presidential candidates just 2 days away out in St. Louis. So is Donald Trump changing his strategy? And what's Hillary doing? We're live outside both camps next.
And another round of get-out-of-jail-free cards from President Obama. And wait till you see the rap sheets on those who are now free as a bird.
32 days, the candidates are gearing up for the debate on Sunday.
We hope so anyway. Donald Trump hitting the trail to show support for people affected by the Hurricane Matthew. Hillary Clinton behind closed doors prepping for the debate.
We have live team coverage. Mike Emanuel is in Westchester County, New York, but we start with Fox News senior national correspondent John Roberts, who's outside Trump Towers. Speak softly, they're probably sleeping. John, what's going on?
Steve, Ainsley, Brian, good morning to you. Hey, missed you the last few mornings here on the Dawn Patrol, but good to be back with you. Donald Trump's at Trump Tower right now. He's going to be spending the entire day in New York this morning. He's got a round table. We don't yet know what the topic will be, but obviously a lot of his attention will be focused on what's going on in Florida with Hurricane Matthew. Trump owns a lot of property down there, obviously Mar-a-Lago, Doral, other golf courses up in Jupiter, that area. And so he's got a vested interest, clearly, not only from a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective, as a lot of friends down there as well, in what happens today and how the Sunshine State fares. Last night at a town hall meeting in Sandown, New Hampshire, Mr. Trump said that his thoughts and prayers are with the people of Florida. Listen to this.
We have a lot of friends in Florida, a lot of buildings, a lot of investments in Florida, a lot of great employees in Florida. Southeast Florida has taken the brunt of the storm. To all of my friends in Florida, please know that we are praying for you and everyone in the path.
Trump will be spending a lot of today preparing for the town hall debates in St. Louis on Sunday night. Last night's event in New Hampshire was seen as some preparation for that debate. He had a 2-minute countdown clock there, though he didn't use it all that much. Though Mr. Trump said last night, what, debate prep? I'm not doing debate prep here in New Hampshire. Listen to what he said.
We're saying this is practice for Sunday. This isn't practice. This has nothing to do with Sunday. We're just here because we just wanted to be here. And, you know, Hillary, frankly, they talk about debate prep. That's not debate prep. She's resting.
Should be said that Hillary Clinton has not had a campaign event since Tuesday. She has had some fundraisers. She is down today for debate prep. Donald Trump will be working with Chris Christie and Reince Priebus today, by the way. Back to you. Ainsley, Steve, Brian?
Christie's a good choice, and that guy is as good as a debater as he will get, and very direct.
Yeah, he knows that town hall format, too.
Yep. All right, John, thank you very much. Meanwhile, on the Democrat side, Hillary Clinton preparing for the debate behind closed doors, not resting.
Mike Emanuel is live from Westchester County, New York. Mike, what's the latest?
Ainsley, Steve, Brian, good morning to you. Hillary Clinton's expected to do more intense debate prep here in the Westchester, New York area, likely at a nearby hotel. Clinton is clearly the type of candidate who likes to do her homework, feeling prepared and not like, worried that she's not done enough homework. So bottom line, she's going to do plenty of debate prep here in the New York area. Her aides feel like it's worked well for her over the past few weeks. They defend her taking time off the campaign trail, and they say, bottom line, they think it will pay off in dividends Sunday night in St. Louis with a huge audience. Back to you guys in Manhattan.
Mike Emanuel, thank you very much.
And by the way, we chose John Roberts first this time. Mike Emanuel should not take it personal. We might choose him next time. All right? That's just the way it broke down. All right?
Meanwhile, 6:20 here in New York City, same time down in Florida. Hurricane Matthew screaming on shore right now. Down in Florida, the storm even closing Disney and Universal and SeaWorld for Disney for the 4th time in its history. We're live on the ground there with very latest. Stick around. 6:24 in Daytona Beach right now. Live pictures out of there. You can see the palm trees getting pummeled by the rain and the wind. Andrea Jackson from our affiliate WOFL is live in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And Andrea, is the hurricane expected to reach there any moment, right?
Good morning to you, Stephen and Brian. We're in New Smyrna Beach, which is just north of Brevard County, which is where the storm is approaching right now. New Smyrna Beach is just south of Daytona. If you've ever been here, you've been to the Daytona Speedway. We're about a half hour south of the Speedway. Winds really picking up here, Stephen and Brian. As you can see, the palm trees starting to go sideways. That's always an ominous sign. The rain has been real tricky here. It has been give and take all morning long. It's been quiet, and then it starts to really ramp up, and then it starts to back down. And this This storm is affecting everybody here in Central Florida, including Disney, which is interesting because Walt Disney World has only closed its parks 3 times other than this time in its history of opening here in Central Florida in 1971. All 4 times, including this time with Hurricane Matthew, weather-related. Back in 1999, it was a pair of hurricanes, and then in 2004, it was Hurricane Jean, and in this year, it is Hurricane Matthew. Walt Disney World theme parks, the water parks, Disney Springs, the miniature golf courses, even ESPN Wide World of Sports, that complex all closed today and will remain closed through the end of business today and will likely open tomorrow, weather permitting, but this storm is not done with Florida yet. There was an image going around online with Mickey Mouse in his Fantasia costume blowing some pixie dust towards Hurricane Matthew, trying to keep it off of our shore here in Florida, and I think he did just enough magic to keep it just far enough off since it's kind of moved its track a little bit, but that little bit helps ever so much here as our Central Florida residents and our coastline residents deal with the battering winds and rain of Hurricane Matthew. And we've taken shelter here at the Brandon Community Center in New Smyrna Beach because of the wind and the rain so hard right now coming down at the beach in New Smyrna, which is just less than a mile away from us. Brian, Steve?
All right. Andrea Jackson, thank you very much. Be careful out there.
All right, Ainsley, you are ready to take it from here.
I am. Thank you, Brian. Governor Mike Pence calling out Hillary Clinton for wanting to turn Obamacare into a single-payer system.
Now, even former President Bill Clinton calls Obamacare a crazy plan. But Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine want to build on Obamacare. They want to expand it into a single-payer program. And for all the world, Hillary Clinton just thinks Obamacare is a good start.
So would Hillary's proposal erode employer-provided coverage and push workers toward a public option? Here to weigh in on this is Fox News Medical 18's Dr. Keith Abloh and Dr. Mark Siegel. Thank you guys for being with us.
Great to see you.
What do you think about a public option, the single-payer public option?
I think that Governor Pence is right about this, because what Hillary Clinton has in mind is, first of all, to add a public option to the exchanges. Second, to say you can buy into Medicare at the age of 50 or 55. Those are both public options. Also, to give money to taxpayers, which sounds great, up to $177 million, Ainsley, are going to get $2,500 for single people and $5,000 for families to cut down on out-of-pocket costs. But that costs almost $100 billion to the taxpayer. The more money that's given to people to cover their insurance under Obamacare, the less employers are going to want to provide insurance for employees. They'll say, go to the exchange. Get it from Obamacare. Why should we pay for it? You know, if there's a tax incentive paid by the government, employers are going to bail out. Right now, over half of our employees in this country are getting their health care through employer-based insurance since the Eisenhower years. That's the backbone of the system. If that erodes, we're going to end up with single payer.
Dr. Abloh?
So this is a land grab by Hillary Clinton and the government saying we want to control your health care. And we know what happens when the government controls things. Lower quality and increased waits and less time with your doctor. What's happened? They've choked the system. They've said if you want to sell insurance on this exchange, you're going to sell it in this way. And guess what? Companies can't make money. It's destroyed the profit motive and the ability of free enterprise to shape the system. So what do they then say? Well, now we've broken the system, we'll take it over. So this would be the equivalent of saying, here's how you have to make a car. And it has to have these options, and you got to sell it at this price. And then they come in and they say, well, since we bankrupt all of these automotive companies, we'll make cars as the government. Guess what? They won't run right. How many doctors now refuse Medicare? Tons of them. You can't get lots of doctors that way. We're going to have doctors in droves saying, I won't provide that.
Absolutely. Quality of care will go. It's like saying, you got to be on that train. Everyone has to have a ticket to be on that train. You get on the train, it's full. There's nowhere to sit. Quality of care will be affected. Doctors are dropping out. We already are choked by the amount of time we have to spend with computers. We're already quitting. Doctors are already giving up.
Why are so many insurance companies dropping out? Because yesterday we were reporting there are 24, I think, insurance companies that are bought in, and now there's 16.
Because they're sensible. Because they run the numbers. They say they can't make money.
Because not as many kids are signing up.
Exactly. Young people are not going on to it. Right. So the insurance have to pay for people with diabetes and heart disease. And
exactly. And it's as Mark says, listen, again, it's a broken system that they then want to kill. They were the ones who broke it.
Right.
And the second thing is, I had a primary care doctor yesterday tell me, look, I can't make money in my practice. I said, are you going to sell it? Who would buy it, he said. Nobody can make any money.
Right,
Primary care doctors have to see psychiatrists now.
When I travel with him, so that he always has me. Usually we have a coach, but
Thank you, Reverend.
It's free. He doesn't charge me anything.
Yet.
All right, breaking right now. 350,000 people, our friends down in Florida, are without power as Hurricane Matthew is just wreaking havoc on the coast down there. We are live from Daytona. And when the power goes out, what can you do to stay aware of all the danger? Kurt the Cyber Guy has the best apps to keep you and your family safe. It's fascinating. That's next.
That is what you call straight wind. Hurricane Matthew churning up the coast with winds of over 120 miles per hour. At least 350,000 people are waking up without power, most in Florida. And the experts say it could be weeks before the juice is turned back on. Experts say the hurricane has a Sandy-like, a superstorm Sandy-like surge, and the worst is yet to come.
And that's scary because Sandy was at Cat 1. We have live team coverage this morning with our Fox News chief meteorologist Janice Dean, but we're going to start with Leland Vittert, who's actually live down there in Florida. He's in Daytona Beach. Leland?
Hey guys, some of the 350,000 people without power are those all around us. We've got some transformers that have blown as the squall line that's right before some of the big eye wall bands started to come in here to Daytona Beach. It's pretty dark, but you get a sense of some of the damage here. This was the roof over a gas station, and it is now the roof that has crashed down next to the gas station. This is one of the many gas stations that was out of fuel. The storm surge has started here as well. It may be difficult to see, but right over there you've got a lot of water that's now flowing down here off of the beach. The stop sign back here blowing pretty good in the wind as well. I've got that, and you can see probably the lightning lighting up, which is about the only lighting that we have here. Going forward, this is only going to get worse. We're still a couple of hours away from the eye, so that means the winds pick up, the storm surge picks up, and the storm surge is what everyone's so worried about. By high tide, which will be about noon, the water will be here by the time that happens, up to here on me, which means this is clearly flooding people's living rooms all over. Transformers have been blowing. We've got a lot of lightning too, and that's where you get the threat of tornadoes built inside of these hurricanes that can be even so much more destructive. We're hearing some alarms here at the gas station, probably coming from right over there, and you can see that the force of this hurricane has blown open some of the gas pumps and those kinds of things. No smell of gas, though, which is something that you'd worry about right now. You can hear now the thunder that's coming in. Just a couple of minutes ago, we got a really strong gust of wind, much stronger than right there. And you can see some of the sheet metal that's now flying around here. We're going to try to get on the other side of this sheet metal so that it doesn't come and whack us out here. You can see it flying now all around. We've actually put our camera crew inside of the car in order to try and keep them safe, so you can see the windshield wipers going back and forth here. A lot of debris flying around, and this is the debris that is so dangerous now when it gets into this storm and starts getting flown around. Pardon me as I'm not looking at the camera. We're trying to figure out stuff's going. Good news is we're in front of the power line, so if they go down, they're going to go down that direction. This sheet metal has incredibly sharp edges down here. This comes through and hits somebody in the head or something like that. You can imagine the damage that it will do to anyone. That's what makes this so dangerous in terms of the wind, is this hurricane is coming ashore. What makes it so dangerous afterwards, the storm surge that would be coming. We're already seeing water coming across the main roads here. Not much water, about 6 inches or a foot, but by 2 or 3 feet as high tide comes up, that's when it can start washing away vehicles. I talked to the Daytona Beach police chief, who's about a mile from where I am. He just left our location. He told me that there's even more flooding, and then we've also got some really serious, not only flooding, but power transformers blowing as well. Guys?
Okay, Leland, so we can tell you're in a developed area of Daytona Beach, and one of the reasons we put the reporters there is so you are near a building because the winds are so strong they just blow you off your feet. How far are you to the beach where it's really blowing?
We're right now about 150 or 200 yards away. You get a sense in terms of the way that the winds are. You can see the palm trees right up there. They're a little bit above what you might say is the wind line, so you can see them going sideways. It's probably a good 20 miles an hour stronger up there than it is where I'm standing right now. We're getting a little bit of shelter from this thing, the fallen over gas station lid. Motels around here that are 2 or 3 stories, they block a lot of the wind from where we are, and then we've got some safe havens around here to get to as well, and of course our car as well. I hope National Rent-A-Car executives aren't watching this live shot. We'll bring it back in good order, we promise. But the big issue right now for the wind is at what point it becomes the police become unable to move around, and that's what the police chief was talking about. Is once we get through this next lull, and then the band that comes in for the eye wall, the police say they're not going anywhere, and believe you me, we're not going anywhere either as we sit next to them and watch the storm come in.
Well, I'm fearful for you. That stop sign behind you has just been shaking. Exactly. All right, go get in that rental car and stay safe.
Yeah, keep an eye out. We should point out, 20 years ago today, the Fox News Channel started, and we had planned all sorts of looks back. One of the things, though, I remember, and Brian, I think you were with us at this point, I think it was Brett Baer, during a hurricane. It was reminiscent of what we just saw. He was kind of in the shadow of a hotel so that he could broadcast, and right behind him, a great big piece of sheet metal just went flying, cartwheeled right through the shot, almost hit him live on television.
Yeah,
it was either Brett or it...
we used to call him Danger Bear.
Yes.
Were you at Fox from the very beginning?
No. I started filling in 96 and then was full-time in 97. Didn't get dental until later in 97. So I was kind of really on a ledge for a while.
Yeah. Janice Dean has been here for over a decade, and she's been... I'm sure it seems like you've been tracking this storm for a very long time as well, because we have been tracking this storm for a very long time.
It's been a major hurricane for a week now, which I think will go in the history books as one of the strongest hurricanes that we have had in the Atlantic Basin. Still a Category 3, and I just want to point out the radar here. So where Leland is Daytona Beach, and by the way, I've had conversations with our assignment desks about the safety of our reporters, and I am just hoping that Leland really takes precaution, because that's one of the dangers, is when we have our reporters out there in the eye of the storm or close to it, we have the potential for flying debris. So there's where Daytona Beach is, and there is the strongest part of the storm, so he's not even close to that. And you saw the fierceness of the winds. We have got wind gusts in excess of 100 miles per hour now at Cape Canaveral, and again, this storm really hasn't even come on shore. The strongest core of the winds right here where we have those 120 mile per hour winds, and then beyond that, 60 miles from the center of the storm, we still have hurricane force winds, which would be 74 miles per hour or higher. We were talking about this earlier, the storm surge. The biggest threat from hurricanes is not the winds, it's the storm surge, it's the freshwater flooding, and with this could be devastating for this area, because you see the bend here of Georgia into South Carolina. Well, you've got these counterclockwise winds pushing all of that ocean water onshore, and that's why 10 feet plus could be devastating for them. We really have not seen the results of this storm yet, and then the flooding rainfall anywhere from 8 to 12 inches plus, depending on how slow this storm is. Here's the forecast path as of now. So the storm is making its closest brush to Florida, and then it curves its way up towards Georgia and then gets closer to South Carolina. And will we see a landfall finally? We will have to wait and see. But we're going to be dealing with a hurricane, certainly, as we head into the weekend. And then we have to watch this, because there is the potential for this to recurve and then possibly affect the southeast coast heading into next week. So we're going to be tracking this for I mean, 2 weeks?
Yeah, crazy. And real quickly, there's a possibility when it makes that big boomerang, it could combine with Hurricane, Nicole off the coast
Right,
of
you see
Bermuda?
Nicole right here.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Nicole is actually sort of interacting with this storm as well, right? The sort of the upper level steering.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then this is the GFS model, and watch what happens. It recurves.
I don't like that
I
at
hope
all.
it doesn't happen.
All right.
All right, we
JD,
will
thank you.
Stay on it. Thank you,
got it.
Janice. Well, you're looking live in Sanford, Florida, where Hurricane Matthew is hammering the coast of Florida. We are live on the ground there next.
32 days to the election. We'll get back to the storm in a moment, but first another bombshell in the ongoing Clinton email scandal. Newly released interviews from the FBI's investigation into the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton's private email server, show that a number of boxes of printed emails of Mrs. Clinton's have gone missing. This is, we learned that a top official of the State Department put pressure on staffers to change email classifications to keep them hidden from Clinton's communications from the Freedom of Information Act requests, and there were a lot of them. Here to explain the ramifications, Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. So, Judge, we've been talking about her tens of thousands of email.
Right.
Apparently they printed up a bunch of them, put them in bankers' boxes, and they had, 14 of them, and now 2 are missing?
And now 2 of the boxes are missing. Remember when this was first discovered and she was ordered to return all of her emails to the State Department. On her own, she decided she was going to return just the work-related ones. That's problem number 1, because under the law, when you work for the government, all your emails belong to the government. The government decides which you get to keep as personal, and it gets to keep as work-related. She reversed that. But she didn't actually return the emails. If you send an email to me and you inadvertently delete it and say, Judge, can you send it back to me? I need a copy of it. I would hit reply and send it back to you electronically, thereby giving you everything you gave me. What Mrs. Clinton did was to make paper copies of the emails and deliver those to her lawyer to go to the State Department. The paper copies do not have on them all the underlying metadata.
Who they went to.
Correct.
When
where they
happened.
came from, when she received them, where they altered, all that
Well,
stuff.
that's handy for her.
Right, was kept from the government. Now we find not only did she keep that from the government, but somewhere in this process, from her to her aides, to her lawyers, to the State Department, to the FBI, 2 of the 12 boxes of paper emails are gone.
With tens of thousands probably inside. Judge, is it just me, or does this remind you of, remember when those boxes of the Rose Law Firm documents just showed up on a table at the White House?
Very interesting that you should say that. This is sort of the opposite. That was the appearance of documents that no one could find in a couple of years. This is the disappearance of documents that everyone's been looking for a year and a half.
Okay, and real quickly, 30 seconds. Somebody else, Mr. Kennedy over at the Department of State, has been messing with the classifications to keep things out of the public eye, right?
This enabled her to make the argument that these documents were not marked confidential, secret, or top secret at the time she sent to receive them. The markings are irrelevant. As the Secretary of State, she was obliged to know whether the contents were confidential, secret, or top secret.
Smells a little fishy.
To say the least. All the best, Stevie.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, meanwhile, you're looking at Hurricane Matthew hammering the coast of Florida. Straight line winds. We are live on the ground coming up next. And when the power goes out, what can you do to stay aware of the danger? Kurt, the cyber guy, has the best apps for your smartphone. They'd be smart for your phone. Hurricane Matthew now downgraded to a Category 3, but with 120-mile-an-hour winds, the threat is far from over.
Kurt, the cyber guy, is here with the best apps that you can download right now so that you can stay safe.
Even if you're in this bad weather or you're not, these apps are phenomenal. I will tell you right now, the American Red Cross has nailed it. Just a few weeks ago, they came out with their updated Hurricane app. It's free to download. This is what it looks like. It shows you the tracking of every storm. You can see where the nearest shelters are to wherever you are in the United States.
That's screen left.
It is screen left. And then also, you really get good education. I don't know. I rode Katrina out in New Orleans, and at some point you're up for hours on end when you're in a storm, and your mind's not 100% there. This gives you really great, just common sense reminders about, because we're about to hit this part, which is right after the hurricane. What do? Well, let your friends and family know that you're safe. It goes through a laundry list, like how to avoid power lines, so on and so forth. And then we go to ones that, like the ones that pilots jump into. We've shown you this before, but we're talking about a hurricane that is riding so close to the coast. We've zoomed in here that's the wind you can see spinning around here. And we're talking about, Janice has been talking all morning about how the wind and the rain from this, as it's so close to the coastline right now, really helps you with this to see how you're either on the tracks and getting hit by the train, or you're just off of it. And as this skirts up the coast, this gives you that vantage point.
And the closer the lines, by the way, the windier it is right there.
And the faster they move. Yeah, closer the lines, and the faster.
What's great about this too, a lot of people don't have power, so you can
still have access. Very, very good point. And if you're at home right now and you have relatives that are there, you can also put in their address and it'll track you with alerts. Say there's flooding in their area, it'll let you know that. Hurricane HD is the other one. These have made it to the top of the list. We're talking about hundreds of weather apps we looked at, and Hurricane HD, Hurricane Pro, Hurricane from the Red Cross. Write all these down. Go to our website later. I'll have them all. I'll put them up like in 5 minutes. I'll put them up and I'll go and do Facebook Live and answer any questions you have about them. And then if you've got access to Twitter and you're in any storm, always, like right now, common sense, amazing thing to do. Sign up for your public utility Twitter account. That way you'll know when the power company intends on restoring your power, because they're going to let you know first. They're the ones doing the work.
We've come a long way, haven't we?
Yeah, and I just say one thing would be great to have a charger with batteries. Right?
In the car, a lot of people do it. I will tell you, like, when I was caught in Katrina and the power was out, we use those backup power supplies that are hooked up to PCs that happen to be at this hotel, and that's where we charge some phones, and we got a couple more days on our phones from that.
It worked out.
What about for people at home that don't know what you're talking about? You just go to Best Buy and talk to the experts, and they will direct you? A lot of people have no idea. Like I don't think my parents would know how to charge their phone if they didn't have electricity.
For that, yeah. You know what? It's about having a car charger ready to go, having your car not too far away. Of course, don't start your car while it's inside any garage during a storm. If you're going to do that, open it up, make sure that you've got plenty of air. But really, it's just about having some good use of it. Back up, turn off your phone for a while during a storm, turn it back on as you get closer.
And don't worry, Kurt, we all understand you. So do Ainsley's parents. We were talking about something electronic.
But I'll go shopping with them anytime you want me to.
Technology.
I'm ready to go.
You got so scared for a second.
What do you mean?
Straight ahead, breaking right now. Violent rain and wind slamming the Florida coast. Hundreds of thousands of people without power. We're just discussing that. Where is it heading next? We are live on the ground with the best team coverage you can find.